Dylan Mingo, five-star recruit in the class of 2026, one of the best guards available out of that group. He gave an update on his recruitment to Jamie Shaw over at On3. Make sure you subscribe to them. Check in for all their intel. Great coverage for everything you need to know with high school recruiting. But a couple schools that he mentioned are of note to us, including mine, UNC, UConn, NC State, all discussed by Mingo in this latest intel piece. We're going to break down some of his quotes and try to glean what they might mean. Dion, where are you at with Dylan Mingo in his game, though?
I like Dylan Mingo's game. He can't shoot, which is always a pretty big negative for me. And there's like not being able to shoot it, then there's what Dylan Mingo does. I believe 23% on the UIBL circuit. It's rough. Really, really rough. But I like everything else about his game. I mean, he can handle the rock with the best of them, New York point guard. So of course, gets to the basket aggressively. He'll get in a stance too. Like he will get in a stance and guard you for like 94 feet. Big fan of his game. Like I said, he can't really shoot. I like the schools he's considering. I want to congratulate him on probably getting one of the biggest bags in the country from this recruiting class.
Oh yeah, he will, especially if he ends up at Carolina. Trust that he will make out like a bandit, be compensated handsomely. But yeah, he's someone whose game. I think it's just the big point guard appeal that's what's always gonna to lure me in, and the New York background as well. You mentioned 23% on the circuit. However, he still averaged close to 18 a game, close to 8 rebounds, only a tick under 3 assists. Which, again, if the cell is big ball handler, that's like you'd like to see that number go up a little bit. But when you factor in the defensive tools, I always go back to this: watching Long Island Lutheran play IMG, and he forced Darius Acuff into so many tough shots. I get that's kind of the knock on Acuff. Acuff has never seen a shot he didn't like, but still, I thought Mingo acquitted himself very well and was forcing Acuff into air balls. Like that to me tells me all I need to know about this kid, and even his motor, the physical tools, all of that. So yeah, I would obviously love to have him in Carolina blue. I don't think it happens. We're still going to look at the quote. So, regarding UConn, it seems like he really believes in the system they have there, and even the fan base with how much they value basketball. There's not really any other distractions out in store. It seems like everybody is tuned into the basketball program there. That is the main event. And he cited he has a couple old teammates playing there with the Ross brothers, and then even having guys, other big guards to come through Hurley's system like Stephon Castle, Tristan Newton, two national champions, one of which became a top five NBA pick. Pretty appealing pitch on Hurley's part there. Then moving on to UNC, he said Hubert reaches out a lot. I like to hear that. I'm glad Hubert's being persistent. He said Hubert has emphasized that they're going to get back to the UNC level of play. Told him he could play a lot as a freshman. I would hope so. You probably didn't need to say that, Hubert, but I'm glad you still communicated it. Um, and then lastly, with NC State, he mentioned Will Wade was standing out, highlighted his ability to develop players and get them to the next level. I'm trying to think if like Will Wade guards. I mean, maybe you can point to Cam Thomas. This is not meant as shade. I was just trying to think through the pitch. They don't really play similarly, but you can point to guys like Cam Thomas and especially someone like Tari Eason, who was an unknown factor before he got to LSU and blossomed under Wade. I think, yeah, there's some credence there to where I could see why Mingo values that as well. But
Yeah.
as you hear and read some of these quotes, Dion, do any stick out to you about where he might be leaning?
Wherever the money is. Um, to be honest with you, like I think that's why like NC State and the Will Wade quote is there is Dylan's going to go wherever the money is. I've been saying for a while, I think he's going to Washington. I don't think I've like changed my opinion on that. I think when it's all said and done, Danny Sprinkle Me will be having himself a little Dylan Mingo show next year. And I think that's the perfect spot for Mingo too. Like I said, he has a game that I think is great. I really like it. He has a game that I think is extremely exposable too. Um, Going somewhere where not a lot of eyeballs are going to be on you, I think is the best thing for Dylan Mingo, and it gives him an opportunity to develop his game at Washington and get ready for the next level. That's ultimately what he's trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Washington's the perfect spot for him to go do exactly what he needs. It's the perfect recruit for Sprinkle. It's the perfect recruit for the program. Uplift them a little bit, get them to the next level.
Dion, you okay? You look a little sweaty.
So every August, September, my air conditioning breaks, and there's just nothing I can do about it.
Dude, that's tough. Out in California too? Like, I mean, what is it, like 80 degrees still there today?
Today's gonna be like 85, 90, but like peak summer it gets like 110. My AC just doesn't ever hold up.
I mean, it sounds like it's a bummer that you can't take advantage of Duncan Mechanical Solutions because Duncan Mechanical Solutions is an HVAC company based in Angola, servicing the tri-state area, bringing commercial quality to the residential world with excellent customer service. You heard us talk about Duncan Mechanical last summer. If you need heating or air conditioning, kitchen or bath remodeling, or all of the above, Duncan Mechanical is the place to go in the Midwest. Go to DuncanMechanicalSolutions.com to take advantage and make sure you don't wind up like Dion.
The Jaden McDaniels effect. Just go to Washington. McDaniels committed to Washington at like 11 p.m. Eastern, and just no one watched him there. I guess he was like what, like an early second round pick who developed and eventually. Now we see why he was at one time a 5-star recruit. But yeah, I kind of have had my eyes on Washington as well. I know they're not the focus of this one, but just in terms of even looking at what they have this year with a couple big guards who are, I mean, Yates is kind of ball dominant, takes any shot he wants, but makes a bunch of shots too. Desmond Claude fits a little bit of that Dylan Mingo big point guard, point wing type role to where, if you monitor how Sprinkle uses him this year, I think that could be really fascinating. And they clearly have the budget to go out and get whoever they want. I think they probably sneakily have one of the 10 to 15 most expensive rosters in the sport this year. There's going to be a ton of guard minutes available, but to me, it still feels like a perfect marriage with UConn. Maybe UConn doesn't have the resources of UNC or NC State or Washington. I think they can get close, and maybe I still think that ultimately NIL won't hold them back, and maybe you take a little discount to go play for a national champion coach. But I just feel like that's going to be
What,
best for
early?
yeah. Yeah. Like if UConn doesn't quite have the NIL budget of a UNC or an NC State or Washington, I still think even
What's UNC's NIL budget?
I mean, they had a $15 million roster this year.
Yeah, well, that was before we paid the Belichick buyout.
It's true. UNC might not be operating with as much based on like what's happening with the football program right now, but but with UConn though, I just think that like for a guy who has some issues on offense, even if you're gonna have more eyeballs on you, you can't just kind of like sneakily figure it out on the West Coast. I almost said Pac-12, but obviously that's wrong. But on the West Coast at Washington, I just trust Hurley to be the kind of coach who can minimize those weaknesses or put you in the best position to succeed. Like you see, like Stephon Castle couldn't shoot as a freshman and he got drafted top 5. That to me tells you everything you need to know. Where I'm like, this feels like a perfect marriage here.
I will say though, like Stephon Castle got drafted top five, like coming off a national title too. You know what I
And there was
mean?
a
Like,
bad draft class, but this draft class probably won't be very good.
you don't think the 26 class, like, or what would that be, the 27 draft? But you don't think the 26 class makes it into like a pretty good draft class?
Just seems like the way that recruiting analysts and the people who have watched these guys the most always talk about how down this class is. And there are plenty of guys I like. I love Ron. I like Mingo a lot. I love Caleb Holt. I love Bryson Howard. Like there's guys who I see have the build, the measurables, and the game to be longtime pros. But I guess it seems like the general consensus is there's not like the star power that you're typically used to outside of
I,
Stokes.
I guess I agree with that. I think there's a lot of dudes in the class though too. I also think
Yeah.
like if we're being honest, right? There's the rumors Omer Meyer return, so he would be a part of that draft class. There's going to be a few Duke guys that have to return.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like what Todd Pettiford potentially. Like I'm not sure. I'm convinced Todd's going after this year. Like it could look a lot different. I
Hmm.
would personally say, speaking of it looking a lot different, him going to UConn to me, I believe Braylon Mullins is the one and done. But I also think Braylon Mullins is in that area where it could be either way,
Yep. Yep.
a little bit. If they return Demery and Mullins, that's why I think Mingo is going to Washington. I don't personally believe he's playing over Mullins. I don't believe he's better than Mullins
Hmm.
necessarily. They've committed pretty heavily to Demery as a prospect as well. So I don't know that the roster spot is there for him with the UConn. I believe it's there with both Carolina schools, but I think fiscally, Washington has a little bit more to give than I think at least NC State.
Hmm.
But Will Wade, special. He could easily just come up with the money out of nowhere. So
Yeah. Yeah. Would be a massive get for NC State, but yeah, are you still leaning with Washington as your crystal ball right now?
Washington makes the most sense to me. Money, um, plus opportunity. And I think those are the two most important things for a guy like Dylan Mingo. And for what it's worth, I don't need everybody playing on the same five teams. Like I don't need people being like, "Hey, I'm coming here to win." Eh. You've been working your whole life. Go get your money, and go play. Like go have your opportunity. Like I don't think there's anything wrong with the way Dylan Mingo's looking at this.
For sure. I'm with you.